BBOR Black Box Online Radio, coming to you from West Virginia. BlackBoxNid88 on Instagram for the bonus podcast. And welcome to BBOR, the home of true crime talk radio and your premier destination for unsolved mysteries, criminal psychology, and exploring the dark side of cyberspace. My name is Ned DeHaan, and I am your host, as well as the creator of AstroPsych 400 here on YouTube, and regular contributor to the Zodiac Killer channel. And a great way to support these shows is just by listening to some more content. But you can also go over to Amazon.com and have a look at the book Killer on a White Horse, written by me, Ned DeHaan. It is a novel, murder mystery, inspired by the Zodiac Manson connection, but it is indeed fictional. However, who doesn't love a good mystery? And there is always the TeeSpring page. Feel free to check out some of the merchandise. And remember, being weird is not a crime. Let the show begin. This episode of Black Box Online Radio is brought to you by Rep Sports and Raze Energy. Are you a fan of energy drinks, protein shakes, and health foods? Well, I sure am. I use the stuff almost every single day. They sell Raze Energy products at my local gym, but you can have them shipped to your home. Use the coupon code NED075, that's NED075, for discounts applied at the checkout. The link is in the description box. Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to this special bonus episode of Black Box Online Radio. On the weekends, I've been doing some smaller episodes because for a while I was doing the Zodiac Killer debunking series, and then I was talking about the Zodiac ciphers for a while. But 2 weeks ago, there was an episode that came out about some breaking news in the Long Island serial killer mystery, and last weekend I did a promo for the new series that I've started on Stephen Avery and Making a Murderer. And if you would like to follow along with all of these true crime discussions, I would invite you to like and subscribe to the channel. And you can also download this program for free at LaunchPad 1. It's under the same name, Black Box Online Radio, but the easiest way to find it is just to go into the description box and get the link for LaunchPad 1. That is the audio version as a pure podcast. You can take it on the go anywhere and anyhow. If you would like to download the video version, you can use YouTube Premium, but that one you have to pay for. LaunchPad 1 is free. And a great way to support all of these efforts is to go over to BuyMeACoffee.com, and if you would like to make a contribution to the show, all is appreciated. So the biggest motivation for this episode was I did the first part of my new ongoing series about Stephen Avery yesterday, and I really felt that it was a very, very general introduction. It was mostly just sticking to the basics, and I went through a timeline that had been putting out by JoeTrending.com, and I also wanted to give some more opinionated statements, if you will, for lack of a better term. But to provide the smallest introduction, I have something here from DigitalSpy.com that's talking about the crimes that Stephen Avery has been accused of, and he is, of course, the subject of the Netflix docuseries Making a Murderer. July 29, 1985, Penny Bernstein is attacked and sexually assaulted whilst running along a beach in Lake Michigan. Avery is selected as the perpetrator from a photo lineup of 9. He is identified, again in a live lineup, and convicted of rape and attempted murder. He is sentenced to 32 years in jail. 2 appeals in 1987 and 1996 were denied. In 2002, using DNA testing that wasn't available in 1985, the Wisconsin Innocence Project, works to exonerate Steve Avery and prove that the local criminal Gregory Allen was behind Bernstein's assault. In September of 2003, Avery was released from prison. October of 2004, Stephen Avery filed a lawsuit seeking $36 million from Manitowoc County in Wisconsin for the wrongful conviction. And this is where things take a dark turn. And that is when a freelance photographer named Teresa Hallback visited the property where Stephen Avery lived. She was taking some photos of his family's vehicles because The Averys owned a salvage yard. They had I think it was actually over 3,000 vehicles, was that the number that I was reading off? And she was taking the photos for Auto Trader, but she simply vanished and was not seen again for some time. On November 3rd, Teresa Holbach's mother reported her as missing, and then the county was notified, and the search began. And if you watch the show Making a Murderer, I just finished episode 6, and this is the stuff that they're exploring. Teresa Holbach was murdered, and her remains were also burned, like incinerated, cremated, and the prosecution put forward this theory that Stephen Avery murdered her inside of his trailer, perhaps with the assistance of somebody else, but he murdered her and then took her body to a burn pit on the Avery property and had her cremated. So that's why he's charged with murder and the mutilation of a corpse. And then even says that Avery's blood is found inside Teresa Holbach's car. So Stephen Avery, of course, entered a plea of not guilty. And I think that it's really quite clear from even the title of the show. The reason why this program is called Making a Murderer is because they're trying to propose that Stephen Avery was framed for both of the crimes. And you might be thinking, why? Well, as I was just watching episode 6 of Making a Murderer, Stephen Avery openly just asked that question right out. Again, as you see, I'm a newcomer to this, and I'm sharing my journey with you about how I learn about the info. But he's just like, why is this happening? Who could be behind this? Who had it out for me in the 1980s? Who had it out for him in the new millennium? And it's a very big question. I mean, to the point where they would frame him for rape. And I think that the earlier conviction, so the show proposed, was because somebody had a grudge against him in the 1980s, and it also wanted to show that people zone in on a suspect, and then they decide if this person is guilty or not in their own mind. And then they begin excluding external factors. But the show Making a Murderer, says me anyway, heavily focuses on how he has that $36 million lawsuit, and they just wanted to put an end to that. Well, one way to put an end to that would be to frame him for another crime. But as I said, I wanted to share some opinionated things with you guys. And this might sound a little bit weird, but I would like to read to you the introduction that you would hear at the beginning of an episode of Law and Order, talking about the original. In the criminal justice system, the people are represented by two separate yet equal important groups: the police who investigate the crimes and the district attorneys who prosecute the offenders. And these are their stories as the final line. Right now, I would like to talk about the attorneys who are prosecuting Stephen Avery, because the attorneys are in a rather odd position. And I'm going to jump all over the map here, but I told you guys on one of the Zodiac Killer Mondays that I was following the show The Girl from Plainville, and that was all about the death of Conrad Roy and how they're trying to find out, because his girlfriend encouraged him to commit suicide, should she be found guilty of involuntary manslaughter or reckless conduct. And they find something that completely goes against that theory, that makes her appear to be what? Not guilty. And the prosecutors are reviewing the case files in their offices late at night, and then they're like, whoop, look at that. That completely goes against our case. The jury cannot see this. And I thought that that scene was so telling, because that really goes to show it's not about the facts. It's not about right and wrong. It is not about justice. I mean, it's not about guilty or innocent. The lawyers are only trying to win the case. That's it. And when I said not about justice, I guess that is the justice system. You have the right to a fair trial, and that means that there is the prosecution and there is the defense teams, and both sides have to win. And somebody wrote into this channel once, and they said, lawyers should not be allowed to lie to protect someone, or, in perhaps the case of Stephen Avery, trying to frame someone. But I think that the only reason why we have this justice system with the defense attorneys and the prosecution is because there simply isn't a better alternative. If the lawyers could only defend something that they genuinely believed, then the defense attorney or the prosecution would just try and convince the other side based on emotions. No, hey, look, this guy is innocent, and these are the reasons, and they would just try and manipulate it from a different way. If both sides are trying to win, then they can, at the very least, both have a fighting chance. I know that it's not perfect, and I know that some people are going to get cheated out of the system, but I do comprehend the reason why we have that. It's so they don't manipulate the other person's attorney into giving up. But to address that first point that was mentioned in that comment, I don't believe that lawyers are allowed to directly lie, and I know that they do, but they do it without getting caught, but as far as I understand, that's still against the rules. And I was thinking about that as a kid once. I was watching some type of court show, and I noticed that, when people would come on the witness stand, they would say, "Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so help you God?" And I asked my mother flat out, "Mom, why is it that these two people are both swearing to tell the truth, but their stories are completely different?" And I don't even remember what she said. It doesn't matter because I think you can get the idea. Someone is lying, but you have to just do it without getting caught. Again, that's bad. That's bad, of course. I mean, that is illegal and it's not protected, but it still happens all the time. And another piece of rambling commentary relates to something that I heard on a true crime show about 15 years ago, and I can't remember any of the details for the life of me. It's been so long. I swear I was watching it on MSNBC, but it was the story of just that, like, a defense attorney is trying to win the case for his client. His client was accused of murdering a woman, and the theory was that he buried her remains somewhere in the woods, somewhere in a forest. And there's even this audio recording of him confessing to murdering her and burying her remains in the woods or the forest. So the defense attorney was playing the recording for the jury, and as I said, I am paraphrasing all of this because it's a faded memory. So the defense attorney is playing the audio recording for the jury, and he said that, "Aha, there's a sentence." No, there's not even a sentence, it's just one word. Someone asked him, "What's over here?" He said, "Valuables." And it's like he's not talking about a woman's body. He's talking about a safe that had her money in it that was buried in the woods. And he won. That one word. He said that the person had buried a safe in the woods and he was trying to get money. He was not the killer. And the man was found not guilty. Shortly after the exoneration, he confessed to the crime, to the victim's family nonetheless, and that was that. He actually did it. Oh, he did it. But he wasn't convicted for it, and obviously it was a complete fabrication by the attorney, because just that, he wanted to win the case. It's his job to win the case, and you can't really blame the attorney for following the system. And I'm sure those type of answers what somebody was talking about, or what somebody was talking about how that person, very high chance that he lied to protect his client, but did so without getting caught. I mean, I don't know, maybe he never extracted the information from him to begin with, and just came up with it on his own. It's possible. And I even saw this movie once where the lawyer's talking to the client, and the client says, "Why haven't you asked me if I'm guilty or not?" Or I guess a better way of phrasing it is, "Why haven't you asked me if I did this or not?" And she says, "Because it's not relevant to my case." So, firstly, I do have to go back and find that true crime case. I've been searching for it, but I can't get the exact details. Like I said, if it was on MSNBC, it's probably an episode of Dateline or something. But I just want to go back and learn that thing inside and out, even if there's no episode of Black Box Online Radio, because I think that that's an important window into the true crime world. Okay, those things are all about the attorneys. Those are all examples of how the attorneys manipulate the system to make somebody look guilty or make somebody look innocent, right? Well, really, not guilty. But making a murderer focuses on a second part. What did we say in the Law and Order intro? There are two parties, right? The detectives, that's law enforcement, and the attorneys. Law enforcement is in a different position. They are the ones who are supposed to gather the evidence and not try and manipulate the system to get a desired outcome. And that really becomes the focus of making a murderer. They want to show that very specifically it had to have been the detectives, members of law enforcement, police officers, whatever label we could attribute to them, they were the ones who fabricated the evidence to make it look like Stephen Avery was guilty, that he murdered Teresa Hallback, hence the name Making a Murderer. And, I mean, just in episode 6, there was something that was very, not exactly damning, but it definitely gave you room for doubt when it comes to the authorities and the prosecution's case, because, as we said, Teresa Hallback is a photographer. She drove a Toyota RAV4 to Stephen Avery's property, and then she went into his trailer, so they said, this is their theory, and that Stephen Avery murdered her in the trailer, and she even dropped like a car key, or maybe he took the car key back and left it in his trailer or something like that. But her blood was found in the back of her Toyota RAV4, like in the, I guess you would call it the interior part, but way in the back, not in any type of front seat, which would suggest that she had been transported in some way. Now that is in complete contradiction to their original statement, which was that he murdered her in the trailer or on his property and then took her body to the burn pit on his property and tried to cremate her body, because there is no practical or feasible reason for her blood to be in that place of the vehicle in the far back compartment if she had been murdered on site. I mean, as they simply said, you're not going to commit a crime like that and then you use the victim's own vehicle to transport her body to his own backyard. I mean, that's just right there. So I can follow what they're saying. Of course, you could find some scenario in your imagination that would allow you to think of some reason why her blood could have been in the back of her car as opposed to one of the front seats. But so far the show has really talked about ways about how they could have fabricated Stephen Avery's blood being in her car, about how they could have placed all the evidence in his home, about how her body could have even been dumped in certain places, as sad as it is to say about a human being, and then the charred remains could have been collected from a different location and then moved to Stephen Avery's home and then put into his burn pit. When I say his home, I mean the property. As I said, they have a very large property for the Avery salvage yard. So when all of that comes together, there is no excuse. There is no justification if the authorities or law enforcement or anybody who has the responsibility to collect evidence, that includes the forensic scientists, they have a responsibility to tell the truth, to be accurate, and to be honest, and they can't just present some interpretation of the facts that is useful for the time being. And I think most of us understand this, except for the fact that it happens all the time. I mean, I was talking about this yesterday on the Anything Goes Friday segment. Oh, we know that this is wrong, but before DNA testing, this could have happened so easily. I mean, they could just have blood in somebody's home, like, oh, look, this person has blood all over his shirt. He must be guilty. And I'm sure things like that happen like years and years ago, that people were wrongly convicted, or not even circumstantial evidence, but just observational evidence. But what do you think about our justice system? And if you follow the Stephen Avery case and the docuseries Making a Murderer, you can always put your thoughts in the comment section down below. And this is an episode where I'm going to include it in the playlist in the future. So if you're going to wait for the next one, you should have seen the first episode would have been titled Part 1. Then there's this little interlude here, my rambling, borderline daily vlog segment where I was just talking about some other true crime cases too. And this will feed right into Episode 2, so that should be the next one in the playlist for you. Or you can just listen to these in any order which you like. All appreciate it. And thank you so much for making it to the end of this one. As always, the book is Killer on a White Horse by Mina Dahan. There is the Teespring page, BuyMeACoffee.com. Anybody can write the show at BlackBoxOnlineRadio at AOL.com. You can also get me over on Facebook. My personal Facebook is in the description box. And I will see you over on Instagram, BlackBoxNed88 for the bonus podcast. Until next time.